Hello, we're going into the topic of getting the rendering devices on our system. Physical devices are something that exists and we're not creating it. We have to ask Vulkan to give us what is available and then we will pick from that. So I create a new function here in the header called pick physical device. We're also going to add a new member here below the instance called physical device. And inside the CPP file, we're going to create a new region called devices and queues. Inside, I paste the function signature and create its body. I also call this function in the initialize Vulkan method. Now, before actually being able to pick a device, we need to get the available ones. I'll go into the header and add a new function called getAvailableDevices, and it will return a vector. I copy and paste its signature into the CPP file to create the body. Now, similar to getting the instance properties, we need to get the device count first by calling vk enumerate physical devices, passing in the instance and the device count variable address. I initially made this function static, but I need to correct this since we're using the instance. And I also need to make it part of the graphics class here in the CPP file. Now, if the device count is 0, we return an empty vector. Otherwise, we create a new vector and call the function again, passing the data storage of that vector. And let's not forget to initialize the vector with the device count size. And we finally return the devices vector. Now this function is complete and we can pick a device out of these. Here in the pick devices, I call the getAvailableDevices. In the case of this vector being empty, I will call stdexit and write a nice error message. Next, we will have a sort of criteria for picking the most appropriate device. So I add a new function called isDeviceSuitable, which will check a single VK physical device. I also make it a method of the graphics class and add it into the header file. This function will return true or false result. Now that it is added, we can test against different stuff. We can ask Vulkan to give us the physical device properties, for example. This is done by calling vk getPhysicalDeviceProperties function. We pass it in the device and an address to the properties struct that we need to be initialized. Except properties, we can also ask for features of the device. Properties are usually some defined limits that all devices should have, but can have different dimensions. And features are more or less additions that only some devices have. You can see, for example, here in the feature struct, we have only Boolean values. These are indicators where the device supports a given feature. In the properties, on the other hand, you will see these version values, the device name, and most importantly, the limits. Now to return to picking the device. At this point, we are just going to return true for each device, since we're not having a criteria ready yet. We're going to discuss this later in the course. And here, the pick device function, I will call stderasive, where I will pass the begin and end iterator of the devices. And also, I will bind the isDeviceSuitable method with the object. Actually, erase takes the vector and not an iterator range. I will also now rewrite the message here. And let's have a simple for loop at the end. That will get each device properties. And for now, that will print out the device name from the properties. Now I try and build this, but I get an error. Here in the bind front, we need to pass in the others to the graphics method. And also this function returns true if the device is suitable, and we need to delete it if it's not, so the opposite. So we need to reverse this predicate by wrapping the function in std not fn. Now if we run this, you can see my device name printed out here in the console window.